Is it called? Yeah, okay. Log 001, product is Conspit Aries Platinum. It is 1st of July, time is 7:30 p.m. Oh, I just spent an hour with that piece, and it's amazing. I have a lot of words.
Okay, I'm listening.
That is the best base when it comes to rallying.
It's supposed to be,
Yeah. But also, the other side of the coin is something is very off in that when it comes to circuit racing.
What do you mean off?
I don't know, quite hard to put into words. Something is not right. I spent 2 days trying to tweak the force feedback settings and was still 2 to 3 seconds off my personal best. I thought I was losing touch, but thankfully that wasn't the case. I eventually figured it out. There was nothing wrong with the bass, but there was a lot wrong with my room. You see, I recently had my entire office redone. Fresh paint, new wirings, extra switchboards, and the electrician messed up the grounding, which led to my entire rig having current run through it. But what does that have to do with the fact that the bass was feeling off, right? 3 words: electromagnetic interference. A faulty or missing ground can introduce EMI into your setup, especially if your rig or PC shares that faulty ground. It can make your wheelbase feel a little bit notchy, a bit grainy, or sometimes off. So check your wall sockets to make sure ground is working properly, not just for performance, but for safety. With the mystery uncovered, let's talk about force feedback. And before I begin, build quality has been covered in the teardown video. It is robust and you can see it for yourself. Right, so the moment I got this bass, I fired up Richard Burns Rally without a second thought. Because you see, a wheelbase is expected to do well in track racing. That is where most of the sim racers live. Rally, on the other hand, is a niche, and hardcore rally titles are a niche within that niche. Most manufacturers don't pay as much attention to rally because in order for them to stay relevant or competitive in the market, they kind of have to cater to track racers. So when a base nails Rally 2, they cooked. And Conspit did. Which brings me to something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. There's a stigma that Rally does not require as much precision in force feedback as compared to track racing. I disagree. If you're playing a proper rally game like Richard Burns Rally, the details are just as crucial, if not more. With Aries Platinum, rallying felt very much alive. So much so that it caught me off guard. I've tried a few bases, but none of them were able to do what this did. Usually when you push a car, there's consequences which can be felt through the steering wheel. This one does not have it. That panicky feel is non-existent, it's absent. So naturally, I abused it to see what would come out of it. And I actually shattered my previous record by nearly 7 seconds. This is the fastest time I've gotten and haven't been able to break it since. My point being, this base encourages you to take risk. It encourages confident driving. It needs you to be less hesitant. And the force feedback helps immensely as it is much more smoother and composed. I was expecting a mishmash of frequencies, but there weren't any. Irrespective of what terrain you take, snow, gravel, tarmac, it provides an otherworldly experience. I tried Dirt Rally 2.0 in EAWRC as well to see if things would be any different, but honestly, they felt more or less the same compared to other bases. Nothing too impressive. I prefer RBR's force feedback, and that is where I found the most difference. I can talk endlessly about rallying, but let's shift focus towards track racing. And I can either use a lot of mumbo jumbo to describe what I felt, or I can show you what I was able to pull off. My last recorded lap time which I was able to get was 2 minute 5, 357. With Aries, I managed to get it down to 2 minute 5.074 with no changes to the tune. That's nearly 3/10 of a second faster. I do not know where those 3/10 came out of, but they did. Once again, no panic while doing it. The entire thing felt effortless. Also, another thing I noticed, this bass has the lowest self-centering effect I have felt so far, even when completely disabled. Some basses still pull back to the center a bit more aggressively, but with this one it's almost non-existent. The transition from either direction to center isn't rushed. It's quite controlled and smooth. Moving on to iRacing, there is no 360Hz output yet. But whether you talk default or Myra, the force feedback was very impressive. Of course, after trying Myra, the default force feedback starts to feel, well, not great. But even so, I got pretty consistent times and never felt like something was lacking. Whether you take into account mechanical grip or downforce, the differences were clear and genuinely enjoyable. Le Mans Ultimate I'll be skipping for now. It is still buggy, I tried to tweak the force feedback a lot, but could not land on anything decent. It felt harsh, and my car kept slipping out like a Looney Tunes character on a banana peel. Also, for some reason, it always felt like I had a flat spot on my tires from the pit exit. The way the tires loaded and unloaded felt off, and I'm not sure why, but I always get this weird feeling of the car not having a front end. If I do manage to find a good setup, I'll drop it in the comments. Assetto Corsa Competizione is, well, what can I say? Everyone knows ACC's force feedback is great, but this base managed to take the entire experience up a notch. Because of how well it provides you with the details, understanding what the car is doing becomes an easy task. Whether you talk suspension telemetry or loading unloading of tires, I had a blast with it and managed to break my Red Bull Ring lap record within 5 laps. It is now 139.8. With other bases I have in my possession, I usually get a little bit anxious trying not to mess up. But there's something about the way that this base has been tuned that takes away the fear and the unnecessary clutter of frequencies, leaving you with just the bare essentials. It does not try to overwhelm you with a lot of details. So, bottom line, yes, this base feels excellent. But why? Simply cramming high-end hardware and calling it a day does not automatically make it a great base. I mean, it has pretty impressive specs, an optical encoder, really good motor, thoughtful thermal design, and all of that alongside the method of tuning this base is only one half of the equation. The other half is choosing the correct control algorithm. They chose FOC for this base, or field-oriented control, which heavily affects how the force feedback feels. I mean, sure, other stuff matters as well, but without a proper control algorithm, your base is essentially as dumb as a muscle car with no steering wheel. If you want to learn more about how control algorithms affect the overall feel of a base and how a wheelbase actually works, check out this video. Now let's shift focus towards the quick release and address the elephant in the room. Conspit went with this prong style design knowing that the NRG style exists and gets the job done. So clearly standing out and looking cool wasn't the only motive. Let's dissect. So this is a Formula 1 style quick release with manual locking, meaning the ball bearings don't lock into place with a simple push. You have to pull this collar to retract the ball bearings, push the wheel on and release to lock it in place. It's a very simple mechanism but demands tight machining tolerances. Even 0.1mm of error can lead to an imperfect lock. These prongs slot into the recessed channels with almost no room for play. That's the entire point of this design. Mechanical precision and zero play. The prongs don't just align the wheel, they carry torque. Unlike the NRG, which relies on the clamping force and friction, this connection is direct, rigid and far less prone to failure. That's also why you will hear people say that the wheel does not come off easy. It's not a flaw, it's the byproduct of that tight fit. There's even a mild friction lock because of the constant surface contact of the prongs and the ball bearings. Some people actually lubed their quick release thinking that would fix it. Sure, it would make it smoother, but it also defeats the entire purpose. The snugness is the design. Now, it does not give you the NRG's satisfying click, but what you do get in return is sheer structural integrity. If Formula 1 trusts this design at 300 km an hour and through 6 Gs of impacts, I'm sure your sim rig will live. Also, this weighs nearly half the NRG style quick release. A lighter wheel side quick release reduces rotational mass, which means the motor can respond faster and more accurately. This improves force feedback detail, sharpens the feel of the road and reduces stress on the wheelbase, giving you cleaner and more precise control. Also, while we're on the subject, can we quickly talk about this? What is this? This does not prove durability. I mean, I know side-to-side play matters, but this, you're applying lateral force on a part designed for rotational torque, point A. Point B, This is how you turn a car. Not this. What is this? You're milking a goat? I mean, I get it. You drop a lot of money on something and you want zero flex, but at least use it in the way it was designed for. Real engineers spend years studying about stress, tolerances, and fatigue, and then doing this and calling it durability testing is like jumping up and down on a car's roof to evaluate its suspension. It's silly. Now, onto the software. Since I last reviewed a Conspit product, the software has come a long way. Back then, it was the weakest link. Today, it's better but still needs work. Let's start with the interface. You've got 3 tabs: Basic, Advanced, and Game Settings. Sounds simple, but there's some weirdness. For example, I drag the smoothness filter all the way in the Basic tab and then switch to Advanced, and it's not 0. I max it out. Still not reflecting 1:1. Is it a bug or intended? I'm not sure, but very confusing. And then there's the terminology explanation, and I mean, wow. Mechanical friction provides a uniform resistance that is superimposed on the force feedback output by the game in any state. Okay. Mechanical damper provides a counterforce to the rotation of the motor which is proportional to the rate of change. What? Okay, it needs work. Filter frequency and sharpness. Yeah, this one specially could use a rewrite. Let me explain it in simple terms. Think of filter frequency as your bass or treble. Filter sharpness is how loud you want it after tuning the bass. Simple. To be clear, for technically inclined users, all of this might make sense. But for regular people, it's kind of a roadblock. That said, none of this is a deal breaker. These are small things, but they matter, and they are fixable. The core functionality works, the tuning potential is there. It just needs clearer language and a little polish. That's it. With everything covered, here's what I think of this bass. When I started testing it, I wasn't expecting anything beyond the usual checklist. Good talk, decent specs, some quirks to nitpick about. But it genuinely surprised me. This isn't a budget bass punching above its weight cliche. This is a well-engineered device that belongs in the ring with the best. Internals, spot on. Firmware, clearly in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. Force feedback, among the finest I've ever experienced. Yes, the software needs a bit of work, and the bass's overall design may not win any beauty contests, but you see, those things are solvable. What isn't easy to fake, and what this bass absolutely nails, are the fundamentals. The stuff that makes or breaks your driving experience. And that tells me that someone over at Conspit gives a damn. Not about the market share or the influencer noise, no, about the product. And for that, I respect them. I'll say it in simpler terms. This bass feels like it was designed by people who care about the drive. And honestly, Conspit didn't need to go this hard. But they did. And it shows. That's been it. I've been the Nap Man, and may the downforce be with you.